Okay, and we're online.
I think we have to start with, but we can just discuss this in terms of like, firstly, like how it applies at the moment. Like, do people actually use virtual reality at the moment?
Yes,
And
yeah.
then secondly, how it's gonna change in the future.
Okay, we can do that.
So first point is it used at the moment? Virtual reality, physio.
Okay. So, virtual reality is, as of yet, is still in the testing phases when it comes to physio. But it hasn't been applied in the general health sector as of yet. So they're just having trial runs and seeing what type of results they yield so far. But at the moment, virtual reality is used a lot more in things like gaming. It is most popular, and also for home entertainment purposes.
Yeah, because like the article that I read, one of the articles we're using, I think it was done like in 2003, and they basically had like 3 patients, and they used it in one of these like chronic stroke patient, and according to the article, it actually improved their functional abilities at the end of the treatment, but it was combined with the normal physiotherapy interventions as well. So for example, like stroke rehab, it was combined with it. It wasn't only like specifically virtual reality. But like just to show that, like although it's not practiced at the moment as much, it's got positive influence because it can make people better. You know, because of like, it can also like, because if you're a stroke patient, you need that like stimulation, and virtual reality can kind of give the same stimulation to the brain as normal treatment.
Yeah. Well, we know in cases like amputations that if you want to avoid something like phantom pain, you have to have your auditory, you have to have your visual, and you have to have your sense. So in terms of touch inputs, in order for the person to realize that the leg is no longer there. The same thing can work in things, especially regarding like motor learning and stuff like CVA patients. And obviously VR or virtual reality takes care of that in terms of like visual stimulus. But the thing is, some problems can arise when you separate the visual component from the other component. So for instance, when you have a visual input going into the patient, but you have the proprioceptive and touch and auditory things lacking.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but the thing is like, although it's like very like computer oriented, it's just like I think it's gonna play a big role, because if it's less time for people working on patients and just like connecting patients to like the computers and just getting that feedback, even if the patient was actively doing it, as long as the brain is stimulated. So I think it can still work.
Yeah, it definitely can still work. But as far as physical things such as stimulating the muscle fiber under pressure and things like that. I mean, we know when we have a stroke patient, some of the first things that we do are definitely sensory inputs. So we'll do things like compressions to stimulate the muscle fiber. We'll do some shaking to relax it out and to relieve spasticity and try to normalize tone. So whilst virtual reality is working great for the patient to visualize these things and obviously to feel more positive about their rehabilitation, because they're seeing themselves doing more than they currently can, in inverted commas, it does miss that proprioceptive element to it, unfortunately. So I think that it is going to be effective, but I'm saying that it does lack a certain component to it.
Definitely, like it does lack that physio component, hands-on therapy on the patient. But like if you think about the brain, like even like sensory and like touching the patient, it all comes down to like stimulation. And if you can get the stimulation to the brain in any other way, I think you still get the same results. I agree that if you don't touch the patient, that's like one-on-one times a day instead of having someone come and take care of them. So it also brings a sense of independence to the patient, if you think about it, because that's actually something lots of stroke patients suffer with, is independence. They want to go back to the normal life, being independent. So spending more time with a human being who helps you to do things, who helps you to feel, by, like, for example, doing joint compression and all that, so that you get the feedback. I think it can enhance independence if you actually use a computer to give you those stimulation. So I think it's got a future in physiotherapy. It's going to change many things, the way we approach physio. It's going to change the way we education is done. But I think it can actually fit in the future of physiotherapy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you brought up the point about independency, because I was just thinking that in terms of the patient using virtual reality, so there can be sometimes that the patient uses it as a form of escapism. So rather than dealing with the actual reality of their condition, I mean, we see it in normal patients today in NMS and things like that, where they kind of need some type of a crutch to deal with the condition presented to them. So maybe perhaps they will end up in a phase that they would much rather end up in the virtual reality rather than dealing in real life, you know.
And I totally agree with that. Obviously, there's always like people who go over the limits and like abuse certain things. It's good that like it's not actually practice at the moment in physio as much. Like we found only 2 articles about it, and one only talks about actually doing it on 3 patients. So there's not a lot of research about it that actually shows that they haven't been doing a lot of like of these things out there, and probably because of that, they're trying to see what are the disadvantages, what are the things that could go wrong if they actually implement it in physio. I think trying it and doing more research will be important in the future for actually implementing it. But it's just recognizing its place in the future of physio, also like in the current practice as well. You know?
Yeah, and then just on that point, you know, I mean, we've been speaking a lot about motor learning and CVA patients and things like that. We've been speaking about that a lot. But where else do you think that virtual reality has a place in terms of physio practice? What other types of conditions do you feel it can help with?
Sure. Apart from like stroke rehabilitation, I would think we can apply it in sport as well. Say before, so you get like your acute phase where the patient can't go back to sport. They really have to work on decreasing inflammation, compressing, decreasing swelling, you know, avoiding any like excessive movement, just trying to get the range back and the strength back. You can use virtual reality to actually stimulate the brain to the sport that the patient plays, so that they don't lose their ability and their performance. So basically what you do is that while the patient is not playing soccer anymore, you connect them to a computer that actually puts the patient and give them stimulation as if they are playing soccer. So that way the brain still keeps on getting the stimulation that they would normally get while playing soccer. The skills are not lost, you know, but the patient is not actually playing soccer. So when they go back to sport, or they start going back to sport, for example, and first they haven't lost any skills, and they just have to work on the muscles and obviously flexibility and all that, but the skills are not lost. I think that's something like that. I think we can apply it. You mentioned with amputation patients, let's say phantom limb pain, you know, patient having pain in the limb, so maybe visualizing that there's a leg out there. I think that would work as well. The only problem is that with amputation, you mentioned that you can get the patient actually getting lost into that virtual reality and trying actually thinking that they have a leg, because they get this stimulation from the computer that they have a leg that they can use.
Yeah, exactly. I think that might actually increase phantom limb pain in many cases. Yeah.
Not can imagine they getting the sensation and stimulation from it.
Yes.
I think it's sport work. I think sport. I don't know how we could do it in terms of like spinal cord, complete spinal cord patient. I don't know how the technology will apply to it. I think there should be more research about it. But let's say for a quadriplegic, imagining, giving them a virtual reality of like their limbs moving. I don't know how much it's gonna change the brain, but like I would think if you have to push it a little bit further, I would think maybe prevention of like deformities because you're getting the sensation. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but obviously we have to see if there's any research on that.
Yeah, obviously, according to the research that we took a look at, the information isn't too thorough because this technology is relatively new, especially in the physio field. But we'd have to take a look at what other roles it plays in. So obviously, there's the mental aspect, there's depression, and what that does, and also it'll be interesting to take a look at pre and post treatment, what it does, because eventually, obviously, you'd want to be weaned off eventually of the virtual reality treatment. So, will it have a depressing effect? Will it have an improving effect on the person's mood and their sense of well-being? Things like that, as well.
I think it's going to be very difficult to actually implement it in physio. I think there's potential for lots of benefits from it, but in terms of implementation, it's going to be very difficult because it brings in, as you said, many more aspects, like the mental aspects, psychological, like what does it change? It might work today, but like what happens in the future? How does the patient improve from there? When you actually stop using it, what happens, So I think obviously like the research that we have here is not thorough, but I think there should be more research on it. Yes, and if you look at education, I think we talked about it earlier on. I think it's going to change the way we see physiotherapy education, for example. We're looking at things like studying more on psychology, studying more on like how does the brain work, how does stimulation affect the brain in terms of treatment. It's moving away from the hands-on therapy, let's massage, focus special exercises, weight-bearing exercises in stroke patients. It's going to be a lot of moving away from that and actually move toward technology, more toward how to use the computer, how to educate the patient on using virtual reality computers.
Yeah.
So things like that.
And then also, obviously, the main concern for me, I think, as I expressed from the beginning, is we're going to have a difference between the physical ability of the patient and their perceived physical ability. So, a couple of things that might be a problem with that is that the patient's self-esteem once they come off that type of treatment. I mean, obviously, in this phase, it will be quite an expensive course of treatment. And obviously government wouldn't be able to afford it for patients for a long period of time, or not necessarily for everybody for a long period of time. And then also obviously the patient's ability to do things around the house and what they believe that they can and can't do. There might be also a greater risk of falls and things like that, because the patient can believes that their functional level is higher than what it really is.
Yes, but I mean, like it is true what you're saying, but we already have so many modalities in physiotherapy that actually you question like they are used. For example, your laser, your ultrasound machine.
Oh yeah.
TENS machine.
Sure.
You could question all the things and say, is it really because the patient perceives that it works, or does it really work, and does it really change something in the body? So and again, like it's gonna be really hard to tell where exactly it's working. If it's only working on the brain and how the person sees things, or if it's actually changing something, physically on the patient's body.
Yeah. And then obviously, according to the research that we took a look at, we specifically focused in on patients that were getting treated post CVA, and then also motor learning. Do you want to speak a little bit more about that?
Yes, so basically they had 3 patients, and so every patient they had, one was in the last phase of rehabilitation, so basically more functional than the 2 others, and one who just had a stroke. And so they were doing normal rehab, so working on joint range of motion, working on proprioception, and also having the same treatment with virtual reality. So they had computers connected, and that would give feedback to, let's say, for example, let's upper limb range of motion. So they would get feedback as if the upper limb was moving, and according to the study, the upper limb increased in range of motion. But the only problem with the study is that like they can't really differentiate between patients respond to it. Yeah. So again, it doesn't say much about the effectiveness of it. Can it be used only like on its own, or does it need to be combined? But we didn't find any other research that's always like supporting it. They haven't done any other research on the same people. So yeah. So what it says is about that.
Yeah. And just lastly, on that point, do you believe that it can be used in conjunction with other physio, or do you think it'll be effective on its own? This type of physio. Where do you think in terms of where it belongs in the future of physiotherapy? What do you reckon?
I think for the future of physiotherapy, I think it's going to be an intervention on its own. I think it's going to be something that will only be done on its own. I don't think it's going to, if you add it or you combine it with any other intervention, I don't think it's going to add more. It's not going to be more effective, I think if we have to apply it and implement it in physiotherapy practice, I think it should be an intervention that can be used only on its own. So if a patient is receiving virtual reality treatment, or stimulation, they should only get that. For me, it's just like so that if we continue with research, we can see how much effect it has on the patient, because as we increase more modalities, we kind of lose track of which one is contributing the most.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%, and that's obviously why we were struggling a little bit with the evidence that we had on hand, because all of the articles that we found, the virtual reality was used in conjunction with another type of therapy, manual therapy or whatever it was. So we don't actually know as we sit here how effective it is, but as we say, we need more research on the subject. But I suppose that's the point of researching something that will be possibly used in the future of physiotherapy.
Yeah, but as I said before, I totally agree that it has a place in physiotherapy and in the future of physiotherapy, and I think it might be effective as everything is changing, technology is changing, everything is evolving, and I think just like limiting physiotherapy to the hands-on therapy, it's not the right way to do it. Medicine, for example, is not only hands-on anymore. There's technology involved, everything is evolving technology, so I think physiotherapy also must move forward. And having such intervention in physiotherapy available for physiotherapists would be good.
Okay, excellent. I think that's everything for today, if you agree. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll stop the video.